Good morning, everyone. You are listening to Blue Collar Tribe Podcast, and I am your host, Ash. And I have quite the unique setup today. It's just me. There is no guest on the show. The only possibility of a guest is if they jump in on Instagram and TikTok. I am hosting this live on both platforms. You can also find me on YouTube at The Real Splash. I'm The Real Splash. And on the Facebook group. We have a Facebook group now for everyone to go join. It's called Blue Collar Tribe Tribers. Go visit that. It's we're changing some things up. I told you guys when season 7 started, I was really going to make some changes to what I was doing, and adding some video to it was important. So we do have the audience from TikTok. We have the audience from Instagram. I'm on every platform. You can find me at The Real Splash. There's underscores in between each word, but that's where we are. I really kind of wanted to pull the curtain back, so to speak. And I've said that for years. If you're a longtime listener, you know, I'm very organic in what I talk about, and I just like to keep things real 100%. So that's what it is. And let me get to the sponsor real quick before I go any further. If you are a sprayer or a DIY, or you're just looking to get into the spray business, I recommend going to Graco. Contact your nearest place where you can get your Graco machines and get the new Flex Volt battery powered by DeWalt. It's an amazing system. They're $395. Absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite machines that I've used, and I can get out of a full charge battery 3.5 to 4 gallons. So it is amazing. Go over there and contact your local retailer and get a Graco machine and tell them Splash sent you. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so this season, I told you all we were going to have some guests. We're going to have some cool conversations coming up. This episode, there's no guest. I have some stories because some of you listeners, and I appreciate those that did, DM'd me some stories you wanted to share. So this episode is called Keep Your Clothes On. And that in itself should tell you what we're going to talk about. But for those that are not aware, you can watch me on all the platforms. I know I've kind of went over that, but we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're in the YouTube chat, YouTube room. You can chat with me on here if you want. So if you read it, if you send me a message on there live, I will try to look at it. I will call your username out if it's a valid comment, and we have a conversation about it. But let's just get into it. It has been fun this season for me. I hope you all have gone back and listened to the episodes. If you haven't, wherever you find your podcast platforms at, go download and listen to Blue Collar Tribe. That's where I'm at. That's the name. That's the name of this. I created this podcast for everyone in mind. If you're in the trades, this podcast is for you. I've created it because I think that we need a safe space to kind of like just scream or yell, just get the shit out that sometimes we can't do. Yes, we do swear on this podcast. And also, just be organic to ourselves and to the things that make us have the passion and love of being blue collar. Blue collar people, individuals in the trades, we're hardworking people. We love what we do. We're passionate. We talk a lot of shit. And we have a lot of stories, So I want to get into one story that was sent to me from TikTok, one of my followers. And I was going to do a TikTok to like mock it, but I felt like the storytelling was a little bit better than just doing some video to it. So the story goes like this. This buddy works for a welding company. He does some welding and kind of handyman stuff, but that's, I realized that in trades, we tend to be kind of like a jack of all. Like we have a very tight niche of like what we do, whether we're a painter, a roofer, a framer, welder. You kind of know everything, but you have one thing that you're just badass at, like really, really badass at. And it's awesome. But this story comes from someone who is a welder, and it goes something like this. So this friend of mine, he's really good friends with the owner of the company. He doesn't own the business. He's an employee, and he works his ass off. And they were bringing in someone to do the HR work for them, which is extremely important in any business. You got to have a good HR manager. You got to have someone who's an HR. I know that HR is kind of like that mute word that you don't want to hear, but ultimately you got to have a good HR. You got to have someone that manages the human resource side of what HR stands for to have a business continue to flow. Like you can have a business, but if you're going to grow and be out there, having an HR is important. So my friend tells me this story and he's like, "Hey, listen, my boss hired a new HR manager, and the first day of work, this is someone who's graduated, they have a degree, whatever degree HR is. I actually don't know if there's a specific degree in HR, but they have this degree. And we'll just call her Sally. I actually don't know her name. He didn't share with me. Sally comes into work the first day, and the manager says, "Hey, look, I have all these paperwork of my employees, and I have this other pile of potential employees, people that want to work for me. We're a growing business. I need to make sure that I'm hiring the right people to work for my company, and I want to make sure that everyone that we have, that all the paperwork's valid and all that stuff." So ultimately, what happens is she goes through this paperwork throughout the day, and she calls the manager back in. My friend happens to follow with him because that's they're good friends like that. They hang out, and that's what a good employee, owner or manager relationship is about. So Sally tells him, "This is, hey, look, I went through all your paperwork and I have two piles here." It was actually a third pile that dealt with potentially new employees. So the manager says, "Okay, well, what are these three piles for?" She's like, "Well, listen, this is the pile of um, applicants that we're not going to interview. This pile's who we're going to interview. And then the third pile was the pile that was all of the employees that he had. Well, they were in color coded like folders, and the blue folder was all the employees that were there, and the red folder was the employees that were there. But she had a sticky note on, and the boss is like, "Hey, what's the sticky note? Why do you have two different folders for my current employees?" She said, "Well, this red folder is for the employees who don't have any degrees. The other folder is the folder that has the employees that are currently working that have degrees." And she says, "I'd like to talk to you privately." And he's like, "No, you can talk to me in front of any of my employees. Like, we're a very open business. We like to have a great, I'm very open with my employees." So she says, "Okay." She says, "Well, I have found in my schooling that if you don't have a degree, you're really not going to be a positive worker in the environment." And she listed off a few things. I'm sure you guys can only imagine of like what happens, why having a degree is not. And the manager looks at her like, "So you're telling me that these employees in the red file are employees that we should like not have work for me?" She's like, "Yeah, like that's my outlook on it, and looking at what you have is employees for value." Now, mind you, this is her first day of work. She's evaluating blue collar people based off of you having a college degree, not even high school, just a college degree. She's an HR manager on her first day in a blue collar industry. Like that is just like fucked up. Come on, let's be real here. So he looks through it. My buddy's name's in that pile because he doesn't have his college degree. He like didn't go to college, and if he did, he took a few classes here, a few classes there. Didn't really care much about the educational part because it's a skilled trade and he's learning through the process. Now, welding is a little bit different, but because there are some welding courses you have to take. There's trade schools for that. But he's looking through this and he's like, all these people in this red file are like my best employees. He looks at the other file. He says, "Well, some of these are good employees, but some of these like a little finicky." And he says, "Well, he puts them down and says, this is not how we do business. I'm not going to hire people solely based on whether they have or don't have education." Walks out of the room. They have a good chuckle about it. But moral of the story is this: is it that important that you have a college education when doing blue collar? Like, I'm not talking like trade school. Obviously, degrees are important in a lot of facets of what we do in the world that we live in now. One of my kids said he's learning coding. And I'm like, "Hey, that's cool. You should learn." He's like, "Well, I don't want to do coding. I want to do blue collar work." I'm like, "Hey, that's great. Coding is important. It's one of those things. If you learn how to do it, it's not going to change that far out because coding is like a block system of learning. So there's the basics, of foundation. But when you look at an education and the importance of it, I'm of the mindset of this: if you're going into the blue collar world, learn the skill, go to trade school if there's a trade school for it. Like electricians. That's a very dangerous skill trade. Welders, it's very dangerous. Is painting dangerous? Yeah, you can fall off a ladder. A lot of people unfortunately fall off ladders and die. Is framing dangerous? Yeah, there's things. But when it comes to blue collar work, I'm of the true mindset that you learn as you grow. Like I said earlier at the beginning, like you have trades that you're in that while you're working in these trades, you're learning. One day you may learn that you don't want to be a painter, that you really like drywall work. Okay, so go be a drywall finisher, which leads me to another thing. I was thinking about this today, and I really want to know your thought on this. Drywallers call themselves the finishers, but they didn't finish the wall because they didn't paint it. And I did some Google search. Like I looked at Google and I tried Googling like why drywallers call themselves the finisher. Like I know that they're getting the drywall ready, but drywallers, if you're listening, lead me down this place, please, because I really would like an answer to this. Like, what makes you call yourself a finisher? Because the painter is the one that's finishing the job by applicating the wall with paint. I know. This is the shit that goes in Splash's head. Like, I'm not gonna lie. This is the dumb shit that keeps me awake at night. Like, wait, why does that person say that they're drywall finisher? Like, I know you finished the drywall, but they normally don't put the word drywall in front of this. Like, oh, I'm a finisher. Like, and we know what that means. Like, okay, yeah, you're drywall, but like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And Google had no good answers, like zero good answers that I was like, really like, oh, that makes sense why you call yourself a drywall finisher. But like, doesn't everyone that does drywall finish? I mean, I don't know. I could go on because and I think, okay, well, you're a painter. That's the realm that I know. Like you have your preppers, but every prepper I knew rolls a wall, they spray. Even my guys that spray, even myself as someone who considers myself a sprayer, like I'm spraying a wall, but ultimately I am like I do it all. So I don't know. I don't know if other trades are like that. Call me weird because I think that, but that was like one of my weird thoughts that I had in like I was on actually on the gram and I saw someone like hashtag drywall finisher and I'm like, I wonder why they call themselves that. Like I've heard it. I see tools that call themselves. I'm like, the finisher's the last person in there. That'd be the painter. I don't know. Plumbers don't call themselves finishers. I don't think. Framers don't call themselves a finisher. Anyways, this is the shit that goes on in my head. So, moral of that story is listen, if you aren't if you don't have a college degree, it doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing the job that you have. And if you have a boss that's in the blue collar world, like demanding you have a degree, obviously, again, if it's a trade like electrician, a welder, you need to have a certain thing. But I've never seen a sander or a painter or even a framer have to have schooling to know what they're doing. Like plumbers, there's certain trades that you need to have a skilled trade school teaching because there are a lot of dangerous things. Plumbing, you got to know degrees, you got to know how to angle your pipes. Which reminds me of a joke I'll tell y'all later. But then the electricians, you don't want to start a house on fire. That's just shit. You don't want that to happen. So it happens. That's one of the stories I got. Another story I want to tell you is just one that a minor friend. So those that know me know that I lived in Winnemucca for a while. And that is like mining town, USA in Winnemucca, Nevada. I hope I'm saying that right. I lived there long enough that I should know how to pronounce the city name and state right. Anywho, I was at I was it's kind of where I started painting more busy because I moved from Utah to Washington and to Nevada, and really in Nevada is where I really got dug down into the painting industry. Started setting up accounts, at the local Ace Hardware stores and stuff, and so I'd go in frequently. And Winnemucca is a small town. I happened to be repainting a bar, and these miners came in. The bar was actually closed. They were renovating it, so I got the bid to renovate the whole thing. But they still had like their local, quote unquote, local friends come in and do work and have some beers and serve them lunch, which was kind of great because you know what? Sometimes there's nothing like a cold beer, um, at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Anyways, that's not part of the story. But we're sitting down And I'm having lunch with a few miners, and I was like, "Hey guys, like, what stories do you have?" I told them who my father-in-law was, my brother-in-law, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we know those guys are cool." And it's like, "Oh man, has your father-in-law ever told you the story that happened at this place called Cashman?" I'm like, "No, I mean, tell it to me. Let me tell you if I know it." I said no, but I'm like, "Yeah, well, maybe I don't know the story, maybe I do, but just tell me, let me hear from you." So he proceeds to tell me the story that this new hire gets hired on, and I swear every story starts like a new hire. I think it's this oh, what's the word for me? It's like slipping my mind. They do it in like sports. Hazing, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Uh hazing is a it's a thing that we do. It's just like welcoming thing. As long as we're not doing it that bad, we're fine. There's some people who got in big trouble for hazing. But anyways, so this new hire gets hired on. It's like the first week of work, and they notice that he goes to the bathroom a lot. Now, when you're working on mines, sometimes you're actually in a mine that is a facility that likes how do I say this? When you're in a mine, you work in a system that is like a functioning office, and then sometimes you're literally out in the middle of fucking butt nowhere. Like there's nothing. There's not even a gas station. So I know a lot of these places you would like meet at like a Walmart, and then they'd have a bus that would drive you into your job site because there's legit nothing there. So what happened is this new guy, they just noticed he's going to the bathroom. Now, I attribute that to like a lot of things. He could be nervous. It could be his first time on a job site like that, or maybe his wife is just fucking with him and giving him Lord knows what in his food. There's a lot of different variables. I'm gonna go with that this dude is probably nervous, going to the bathroom a lot. So with that being said, on like the fourth day, they're like, "Listen, we got to fuck with him." He goes, "Go into the bathroom way too much," and I'm like already thinking, I know what these guys are gonna do, and no, at this point, I know my father-in-law had not told me the story, and so I'm like, "Hey, I don't know the story. Finish." So he tells me, she tells me, he's like, "Okay, so the way that this job site was set up is the porta potty, the blue house, was delivered. Now, these guys move around so much, they really need access to move it as much as they can. So this one was left on a forklift, like on a crate, and then the forklift was just behind it. And I don't know why, but they had chains to it. Just again, I'm not on the job site, but the guy's going very detailed, like telling me, like, "Hey, this is how it is." And it had just been dropped off on that Monday. So that 4 days like shit that's been in there. And usually every Friday it gets cleaned out. So this dude goes into the bathroom and he's there. They say that he's there like 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes at a time. So they put the forklift and turn it on while this dude's in the bathroom. Well, anyone that knows a forklift knows like it doesn't. I'm on video, so I'm trying to explain this. Like when you have a forklift, you put it up, but when you lift it up, you kind of tilt it back towards the driver just a bit to like give you a little bit more stability and sturdiness while driving the forklift. So they lift it up, and they said they put about 8 feet in the air. The new guy opens the door, pants down, and like screaming, crying, like, put it down. And they're just hazing him and ragging on him. So they tell him, like, hey, we'll put it down, do a dance. Like, do a motherfucking dance for me. So I guess the dude did some fucking weird dance, twerked. I have no idea because I wasn't there. Dude just like he did a dance, they put it down. From that day forward, he never went to the bathroom on the job site for the last like that month or two. Would you have quit your job if you were hazed that way? And I'm like, "So, did, like, the shit fall on him?" Like, "No, no, not this time." I'm like, "This time?" He's like, "Yeah, I got stories for days." So, he tells me some other stories, and the other one's a little bit too graphic for me to share on the podcast right now, maybe for another day. But my father-in-law, I after I heard the story, I went home, I'm like, "Hey," he's like, "Yeah, dude, I remember that. I know who the guy was. He still works there. He moved up." But he's like, "This is a common thing that miners do. They fuck with the new guy." And that's like one of the things. If you're one of those dudes that goes to the bathroom a lot, or women that are on the job site, they're going to do shit to you, literally do shit to you. But um, it's just funny, and I love these stories. I'm like, God, like, that is so, like I always try to put myself as the person that the story is happening to. Like, I fuck someone up. Don't fuck with me. I fuck someone up. If I'm taking a shit, let me do it in my privacy. All right, everyone. Let me get you to our sponsor, and then I have one more story, and we'll be on our way.
Attention Tribers! Plant Powered Marketing is your cutting-edge marketing agency specializing in SEO, Google My Business, website development, and many other strategies that get you ranked #1 on Google. We're your go-to marketing agency for businesses who want to see real, tangible results from their online presence. Our team of experts has years of experience in getting businesses to the top of Google and generating leads through effective online marketing campaigns. Remember to let us build your next website. Contact us if you want to outrank the competition. Plant Powered Marketing, 971-570-0511 or plantpoweredmarketing@gmail.com.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, reach out to Spencer and his team. They do an amazing job with SEO work. If you are new or you have an existing business and you're trying to get back on Google and make sure that you have continuous work for your employees, that is something that I would highly suggest you go listen to and schedule a meeting with him and learn how to grow your business and let someone else do it, because having something like that is just like having a tool. We are all going to go to the tool store and buy new tools. Having someone do your SEO work, if you have a Google page, is extremely important. And more important, let's back up a little bit. If you don't have a Google page and you are a business owner, you're way missing out. You got to get that done. All right. The last story I'm going to share with you before I have to run on this Monday episode is a story from my own job site. Now, I will not disclose anything other than the story. I will not tell you the individuals, other than this story is shit that happens. And I want to know if this is something that's happened to you, because this is not the first time that's happened. It's not the second time. I probably had this situation happen to me a few times a year, a few times. And I know I've talked to the contractors that have shared similar stories. So if this story resonates with you, DM me or DM me. I'll bring you on the podcast to share the stories, because that's part of what the Blue Collar Tribe is sharing our stories, because we all have these like outrageous stories that if you tell a normal person, hence someone not in blue collar, they're like, yeah, you fucking made that up. No, but as blue collar people, like, nope, I know that that happened because I had this happen. And I love these stories. So here's my story. It was the beginning of exterior season. I think this was the second or third house we were doing. We had, let me back up. There is no we in this story. This is me. I had employees at the time, and I had just gotten back from Portland. My guys were supposed to paint this house white on white. Now, any painter, if you've ever painted a house, a white on white house is the simplest house to paint. Like painting an exterior, there is not a quicker type of house to paint. Even if it's a color change to white on white, it's still the easiest house. So I get back from Portland on like a Tuesday, and the house isn't even done. Like they've already been on it for 5 days. So I'm already kind of irritated. This is in my neighborhood. So those that don't know, I primarily paint in my own neighborhood. I don't really leave my neighborhood to go paint because marketing just works that I'm here. And we had done, I think at this point we had done 20 homes on the street. So we're known in the neighborhood for what we do and the quality of work that we've done. And so this is a new homeowner. They just moved here from California, and husband's he travels. That's all I'm gonna say. And we paint the house. I get back on Tuesday, tell my guys like, listen, what the hell happened? So I move them on to another house because I'm like, listen, I know that I can get this done by myself or with one person. I send them off to a new house, and I, set strict BS like, hey, this needs to be done. And let's move forward and get this done. So let's fast forward. Thursday comes around, and the homeowner, the wife comes out and she says, hey, can you give me a bid for the interior house? I'm like, yeah, Sure, absolutely. Obviously, we've picked up the slack. We're moving along. She likes the work we do. It's a brand new house to them. They have kids, and they want when people buy homes, they change a few things. I've noticed this in being blue collar. When a person buys a home, when they walk through that house the first time when they're looking at it, if they don't buy sight unseen, they immediately form a connection with that house. And part of that connection that homeowners, we've all done it. We think and we talk to our significant other that's there with us. If there's someone walking the house with us, it's like, I want to do this to the wall. I want to change these cabinets. I want to change these floors. So immediately, blue collars are in the front of these minds. A lot of people may be DIYers, but I don't care how DIY you are, you're going to hire something out. You're just going to. So we're always in these homes. So Thursday comes along, and I give her a bid. She says, "Hey, also I want my cabinets painted." So her cabinets were a natural wood finish. They had to stay, they had a sill on it, a coating over it. So we had to sand everything, and they weren't flat panel. There was a little bit of a decor to it. I tell her, "Hey, I'll email you the bid." So I email her the bid that night. We show up Friday. I'm getting ready to wrap it up. I have my best guy with me, and we're outside wrapping up. I think we're just pulling off the tape and making sure that if there's anything we miss, just little touch-ups. The last day of a job site, you're like, "Oh God, I'm thankful to be here. I know I'm going to be done really soon, but you still got some little things." So it's like really going to be a half a day. So she texts me. She says, "Hey, can you come inside in 30 minutes? I want to talk to you about the paint bid you gave me." I'm like, "Yeah, cool." Haven't heard from her. I'm like, "All right, I don't know." So she texts me, she says, "Hey, come on inside. I'm ready." I'm like, "Okay." So I go inside her house, and I'm waiting for her. She comes down the stairs. She's in a robe, and she drops her robe. No shit. I'm like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Listen, I want you to do the paint job for me, but we can't afford what you want to charge us through the cabinets." So at this point, I'm like, "Hey, just pick up your robe, put it back on, please." Like, I'm like, "You look good. I don't mind looking, but I got to keep this professional. Like, I'm the business owner. Even if I'm not, you got to keep it professional with my guys." So I'm like, and I hear the door open, and I know no one's there except for my car. I'm like, "Hey, bro, just wait 1 second." I know he saw. I'm like, "Hey, So at this point, I'm like, "Fuck. All right, what do I got to do?" So I'm like, "Listen, put up." And she doesn't start to cry like she's bawling. She starts to cry like, you know. And I'm like, my first thought is, "Oh my god, like I'm ruining this person's how they view themselves." I'm like, "No, no, listen, like just get dressed. Like let's talk about it. Where am I off on the price? Like what part of this price is it?" She's like, "I'm really sorry." She's embarrassed. I'm like, "Look, go back upstairs, come outside, and let's have a conversation." So she does. I go outside. I have my bro. He's like, "Dude," I'm like, "Oh my god." So I'm like, "Dude, this is not the first time this happened." And she tells me before I leave, she's like, "There's nothing I can do to work it off." And that always seems to be the key thing. The times this has happened that someone says, like, "Oh, can I work off the work for you?" Well, no. I mean, I know that blue collar people have done this. I'm not saying that I'm better or anything, but like when you're running a business, like this shit happens a lot because people don't understand the cost it takes. And I think my bid, I think there was 60 something because most cabinets here in the neighborhood I live in have between 50 on up of doors. So I charge a per door rate when I do my cabinets. And I know we were probably about 6,000, maybe $7,000. And so look, you can't work it off, but just come outside when you get done. Because at this point, I no longer want to be in this woman's home with her alone. Like I just don't. And it's not that I'm uncomfortable. It's that I don't want to make her more uncomfortable than what it already was. Because she comes down bare skin, nothing under the robe, just drops and like, "Here, have some fun with me and give me a discount." I don't do that. I do know I actually have a really good friend that lives in another state that I know that they do, but that's his business. He's single and that's his life and that's how he does his work. Not my problem. Actually, he did get his sugar mama from it now that I think about it. Last time I talked to him, he's been dating this lady for 6 months. Yeah. Anyways, that's a story for another day. So I tell my friend, like, listen, he's like, dude, what the fuck? I'm like, this happens. He's like, I know, but like, what did you tell her? I'm like, no, dude, I don't do that with my business. It's not. And this is like one of my great friends. And she comes outside and you can just tell she's so embarrassed. And so my guy, he goes to the truck and I'm like, listen, like all bullshit aside, like I appreciate that, like, you thought that of me or whatever, if there was a thought of me in that way. But like that's not how I run my business. Like just tell me your budget. Just tell me your budget. I don't do the sex work exchange. It's not in my cup of tea, you know. But like, and so she's just like, look, I can afford like $2,000. I'm like, oh. So I had to break it to her. I'm like, listen, we want to do the interior. Let me go back and look. But I sat down, not literally sat down, but I stood next to her and we had this conversation. Listen, this is why your cabinets are this much. So you want to go white on your cabinets, but they're wood color. And there's a lot of sanding that has to go on. I have to disassemble all of your cabinets. And I went through those that do cabinets, know like the whole thing. So I explained, I'm like, listen, like this is what it is. I said, even at an hourly rate, if I did it myself, not my crew, I know what you're thinking. I didn't do it that way. But like if I thought like, okay, if I just did it myself, this is what it would cost me. Because obviously as the business owner, you probably charge a little bit more, but you also know you're going to get the job done faster. So it works the numbers out. And I explained, I said, listen, like this is the cheapest we can do. And I told her right then, and she's like, we can't do it. I said, but you can go to IKEA and we can paint the boxes white and then you can get white cabinet doors, but I just can't do it. Even if I finagled the interior paint job that she wanted to do. So it's like either or interior walls and ceilings and all the rooms and doors and trims or the cabinets. Needless to say, I didn't touch the interior. I got the exterior done, got paid, went off. Fun part of the story. 2 days later. So it was Friday. So it was Saturday, not 2 days, it was the next day. Here in my neighborhood, they do food trucks. And during the summer, they do food trucks like every 2 or 3 days. We're at the food trucks and her husband comes up like, hey, man, thanks for paying the house. I appreciate it, because I didn't get the check from him. I got it from his wife. And I'm with my wife and my kids. And she comes right around the corner and sees me and her face just goes bright red. And my wife knows because I told my wife the story. Like I'm very, very 1000% transparent with my wife about all the shit that happens. And I knew when I saw her face that her husband did not know. They no longer live in the neighborhood. I think they moved out like 6 months later because I ended up painting a house across the street that summer. So not even 6 months. And the new owner asked me because they saw my sign and I always did business cards in the homes when if I bid here's a trick for you guys. If I bid an interior cabinet, because I have to open the doors, I always have a business card in there. So he's like, hey, I found your business card. I'm like, yeah, we did the interior, or the exterior, we did the interior. And he was asking me if I had leftover paint. I'm like, well, it should be here. And walked over, showed him where it was at. He came in and was like redoing the whole house anyways. And I was like, what? I'm like, do you live here? I'm like, you're not the owner. He's like, no, they sold, they moved, after being here I think they're there for 6 months, but they'd moved in that time period. Y'all know I'm not the only one. I know damn well I'm not the only one that's been offered the S word to do a job in disclosure of having the job done cheaper and more affordable. But that's the stories for the week, everyone. I love you all. I hope you have a great week. And if you have stories like this from the job site that you want to share with the Blue Collar Job audience, DM me, message me. I want to hear it. Your friends in the Blue Collar Job want to hear it. So you can either come on the story on the podcast and tell me, or you can just tell me privately and I'll regurgitate the story for you. But as I end every podcast, we're getting to the holiday season. Christmas is almost here. Be good and be kind when you're out there. It's a crazy time of year. I mean, the whole year seems to be crazy, but this time is the time of need. And as blue collar men and women who are out in the world, who see the world for what it is, just always remember that you can make a difference if you just acknowledge a person. So while you're filling up gas, buying those gift cards for your employees or your customers, whatever it may be, buy someone a cup of coffee, acknowledge someone, give someone a compliment. Hey, I like your shoes. I like your shirt. And when you see those little kids around, point to your tool bag, give them a thumbs up, let them know that, you know what, you're blue collar, you're a nice person, you're friendly, and most of all, you love life. So be the change that can help this world change into a more positive area. Y'all know I'm that hippie down low that I'm just like, hey, be good and love everyone. But I am a firm believer that as blue collar men and women in the trades, we have the ability to change a person's life for the good just by simply acknowledging them in the world that we're building for them to live in. Until next week, I'm your host, Splash. Thank you to all my sponsors. Don't forget, there's a Facebook group called Blue Collar Tribes. That group, you can post your funny memes. You can post your stories. If you're a tool creator or you have a new tool on the market, you want to promote it there, that page is for you. And in the links in my bio on Instagram and on TikTok, there's a link to buy my merchandise. I don't have the blue collar hats that I'm wearing in here, but I do have some. If you want to do a hat swap, DM me. I have a few hats. We can do a hat swap. I have the We the Paint People hats as well. And that link, you can buy the merch. I sold a few merch this month, the month of December. I know December is that time of month where you're hoarding your money and doing things, which is the way it should be. But if you want to support the podcast, that's how I support it. I do appreciate those that have bought from me already. But these would make great Christmas gifts for you or for your spouse and or for your employees. They're blue collar tribe to represent that you're part of the blue collar family, that you're out there making this world turn. But until next time, I'm your host, Splash. Much love, and I will talk to y'all later.